Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this free clip of aggressive progressives on the Young Turks. This is just a preview of what you will receive with TYT membership. That means exclusive interviews, panel discussions, and more of Jimmy, and of course, me. Check out this next clip, and if you like what you see, you can access full episodes of Aggressive Progressives by becoming a member. Head to tyt.com/join now.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Aggressive Progressives. It's a special election day coverage, I guess, whatever.
That sounded fancy.
We have a special guest. We have Steve O is here as normal. We have Cenk Uygur is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Cenk, to the Aggressive Progressives.
Thank you for having me, Jimmy.
Sitting next to Cenk is miserable liberal Steph Zamorano. Hi, Steph.
Hello, Jim.
And so we're gonna try and talk about things that are election centric, but will still be interesting to hear the next day. But of course, you know how we start off every show at the Aggressive Progressives. This is how we start off every show.
I don't know. I don't pay too much attention to that, but I do know that when you look at guys like Jimmy Dore, for example.
Yes.
Jimmy Dore talks about a lot of things that you'll never hear if you flick on the TV, on the cable news channels, and has very interesting conversations. And again, bringing facts and different things to life that people don't otherwise feel like they have access to.
Okay, so that just feels good. I can start off every show. We start off every show with that. And so Cenk is new. He hasn't been here since we started the show. That way, that's how we start every show.
Cenk, we've only seen that clip 897 times. And it's not counting the times he showed me in private. And he tweets it, he texts me like on random moments throughout the day.
Have you seen this?
Jimmy, I got a brief flash there of Jimmy as Stevie Wonder. You're watching Tulsi Gabbard. That's like his music,
It's my key of life.
No, that clip is so perfect for him because it's Tulsi Gabbard saying all of these great things about him, and Joe Rogan just chimed in with, "I love that guy."
I know, it's pretty sweet. Now, I've been ill, right? No one likes to hear about anyone else's illness, but I'm rallying a little. I'm on steroids. My doctor put me on steroids.
Oh, me too. I'm not sick or anything. I just think, hey, that's the way to get pumped up, right, for an election?
Some people saw the picture of me.
I'm juicing for the 2018 midterms.
And the way I voted in there, I was like, yeah. That's how I voted against Feinstein this morning. Yeah, like that.
They think she might win.
Isn't she?
Of course she's gonna win. Sorry,
But I did vote for Kevin De Leon. I told everyone to vote for Kevin, and I voted like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago by mail.
Yeah. No, I went this morning. There was a long line, and I voted at a senior citizen center. It's usually quite sleepy, and literally and metaphorically. And
people were already having dinner when you got there.
They're like, check out the late bird. So anyway, but there was a big long line. I brought my vote, remember the 6th of November shirt, shoptyt.com. Okay, hoodie and glasses, I remember, designed this. So that's pretty badass.
Oh, nice.
Got a nice compliment at the voting booth. And so anyway, yes, I went and voted for progressives. And in California, you get a couple races that are Democrat versus Democrat.
That was pretty cool.
That way you get to vote for someone who's more progressive rather than less progressive. And so voting against Feinstein was relatively easy. We all backed Allison Hartson in the primary. She didn't make it into the top two. My jazz, like Deli, oh, right. But way better than Feinstein, and so the polls have her winning. But what's frustrating, why we do this show too, is mainstream media didn't cover that race almost at all, right? So
correct.
Yeah, so they're like, oh yeah, Feinstein's going to win. We're done with it. And so it's hard to win when you don't get any press coverage. That was Allison's problem. In the primary, and then it turned into, ironically, De Leon's problem in the general election.
Same thing with Gail McLaughlin. She couldn't get any for lieutenant governor, and I want to focus a little bit on. You talked about the media and coverage. Let's talk. I want to focus a little bit on the media. So,
can I just ask something really quickly,
yeah.
Jimmy? When you were working on your ballot last night, did you find it difficult at all when you were reviewing your ballot?
Yes, so I was doing my ballot last night, and so I'll tell you what. One thing that edibles are not good for.
Can I chime in on this
They
conversation?
certainly make it more difficult to vote. Because I've got the bronchitis, so I can't smoke the weed. So I'm like, well, I'll take an edible and then I'll vote. It was a lot harder than I expected it to be.
And you do the thing that everybody does with an edible. Man, I'm not feeling anything right now. Hold on.
Oh, come on, Jimmy. I mean, your nickname's Dr. Weed, and you're gonna make that kind of rookie mistake?
I did not. I actually took 25 doses, regular doses. That's what I had. That's it. This bag contains 25 doses. Give me them all. And
I don't know what this means.
Yeah.
so at one point, there was a moment there I was afraid I was getting too high. You know how that could happen when you take edible?
Yeah.
But it went away. I just got up, I walked around for 2 minutes, and I was fine.
Yeah, Tommy Chong was on the show yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I opened for him once.
Yeah, and like I told him, like, hey, you got competition in the house, right? And he's like, oh yeah, bring it. So you gotta have a weed off with you and Tommy Chong. Anyway, so did you get you get to that threshold where you're worried you're too high and you're gonna vote for Feinstein? Did you ever get that bad?
For a second, I was like, oh my heart, I think I might vote for. I did become conscious of my heart beating, and that's not good.
Yeah, that's when.
But anyway, let's get to some stuff. Chuck Todd, I don't know if you saw this, Cenk, but Chuck Todd, he hates conspiracies, except when they were talking about who was mailing those bombs to the Democrats. Listen to what Chuck Todd said. I don't know if you saw this. That's why I'm playing it. Here we go.
I don't like Nazi comparisons. I'm not comparing Trump to Hitler, but Goebbels called it the big lie. You just tell a lie as big as you can because you know that a lot of people are going to believe it.
This feels like a spot. I have this fear that it could be some Russian operation too, designed to do what's happening now. More of this, and so in some ways we shouldn't rule out.
It's more of this. I don't know what this is, but so he was blaming. This is before they knew for sure who had done the bombs. He was blaming the Russians. Now that's pretty funny. But they want us to do more of this, whatever this is. I don't know what this is, but this anyway.
Okay. Well, look, I have a well-documented past against this. Okay, so I just want to be cleared on the record that I'm super anti this.
You're staunch against it.
Yeah.
This.
Like, no, I'm not sure there's anybody in the country more against this than I am.
That's why that's why they wanted you out at MSNBC.
They're like, this guy's not going to play along.
No, right. We're this. You're doing this. We're this.
Were you in the room with us when that conversation was happening? Okay, no, it's funny you mentioned Chuck Todd because I got real pissed over the weekend and I did a YouTube live. Like, I'm pissed when I go in my backyard and I'm like, you're all right, and then grab the phone.
Like you're Dylan Ratigan?
Right. Yeah. And because they did a Meet the Press segment where it was him and Tom Brokaw and two other NBC reporters, a pollster. So these are all theoretically neutral people, and Hugh Hewitt. No progressives, of course, as always. First of all, no Democrats, period. And then, no progressives is obvious. I mean, other than Bernie Sanders, when's the last time NBC or MSNBC ever had an actual progressive on? At least CNN has Nina Turner on from time to time, Van Jones on. NBC is literally the worst. Media Matters did a study. They have more right-leaning panels on Meet the Press on NBC than Fox News does on their Sunday talk show.
Whoa!
Fox News comes in number 2, NBC comes in number 1. Okay, so they don't just they hate progressives. They think that's the worst thing you're gonna have is some radical progressive on here talking nonsense about helping people, right? So no, let's bring on a conservative to punch people in the face and tell them it's good for them, right? Anyway, so Hugh Hewitt says the economy's booming and it's wonderful. There's no progressive on to say, hey, wages are actually dropped since Trump has come into office. By the way, they didn't do that great under Obama either. So there's none of that, right? So Tom Brokaw comes in and he goes, well, actually, Hugh Hewitt is right. The economy is humming along. Yeah, I know, Tom, you're a millionaire. Of course it's humming along. The stock market's doing relatively well. Your wages didn't stagnate, right? They went up under Obama, you loved them. They got up under Trump, you love him. And so no one to mind the house. And instead you have nonsense like this on, whatever that was.
That's amazing. You know, he did a segment too just this week, Chuck Todd, where he says, "Hey, it's right before the midterms. Let's see what all the 2014 hopefuls on the Democratic side were doing this weekend." So he showed everybody, including Michael Bloomberg. Guess who he left out?
Oh, 2020 hopefuls.
Yeah, what did I say?
2014.
I meant 2020 hopefuls. Yeah, he goes, let's see what they were doing. And he went to Kirsten Gillibrand and Cory Booker and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden he started off with. He even did Michael Bloomberg. He did Elizabeth Warren. What they were doing, where they were campaigning, what they were saying. Didn't even mention Bernie Sanders.
No, it's
Didn't
amazing.
even mention him. The most popular politician in the country. They just leave off. And so what Ed Schultz said was that Andy Lack and the Clinton campaign were joined at the hip, and they said you are not allowed to cover Bernie, and they're not allowed.
Yeah. So two things on that. One is Gillibrand's not even in the race anymore. She declared she's not running, which I was actually shocked by. Right. So they're like, okay, Gillibrand not in the race, let's cover her. Right? And in fact, this is a continual theme. During the 2016 elections, Joe Biden, I think, got 30 times the coverage Bernie Sanders did. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a stunning number, even though he was not running in the election in the year 2015. As Bernie Sanders was closing a 60-point lead on Hillary Clinton, Biden, who was not running, got like 30 or 100, some outrageous number more than Bernie Sanders in coverage across all of the networks, all the news networks. It's unreal in their primetime news. All right, and I know we got to take a break. Maybe when we come back, we can talk about what happened in a green room in Washington when I mentioned the name Bernie Sanders.
Okay, all right, we'll be right back in just 1 minute with that story and a lot more. Everybody, welcome back to the Aggressive Progressives here in our special Election Day coverage. When we left, Cenk was going to tell us a great story about what happened when he mentioned Bernie Sanders' name in a green room in Washington, D.C. Go ahead, tell us that story.
All right, so before I get to that, real quick, two comments that I want to read. One's from Twitter. Megan Jones says, watching TYT live at desk at my work. We sanction that. After working on Just Democrats campaign for 2 years, I'm ready to see progressive wave hit. Proud TYT member for 2 years. Thanks for being our voice. #2strong. #TYT Army. Allison Hartson, who Jimmy and Steph helped tremendously in our California race, now part of the Young Turks and leading the TYT Army. So if you want to sign up for that, she's the new general in charge of that. TYT.com/army, and thank you for helping the Just Democrats as Jimmy and Steph did, and so did Steve. And today's a great day to join overall for Young Turks, home of progressives. TYT.com/join. And what we're doing is we're asking you to share stories of your voting experiences. And by the way, wherever you're watching, if you're watching the Young Turks somewhere, we're going to try to feature it. So Jeanette wrote in from Ohio, Hamilton County, around Cincinnati. Is having record turnout that more than the last 2 decades, 21,000 plus early votes as of Saturday. There was only a total of 27,341 early votes in the 2016 election. That's a general, this is a midterm election. So to get almost as much as a general election is amazing, or a presidential election. I was in line for 2 hours on Sunday, full of Democrats, projecting over 50% voter turnout. So that's good news across the country. By the way, we are having a couple of watch parties. We're not doing it, that you guys are, but that are watching the Young Turks. If you're in Washington, D.C., Eaton House is doing one. It's on 1201 K Street, but just type in Eaton, E-A-T-O-N. And they're all getting together, progressives in D.C., and watching the Young Turks coverage tonight. So you're gonna wanna check that out. And in Denver, it's at the Mercury Cafe. So there's also one in Hawaii that Allison's leading. But if you're in Denver, go to the Mercury Cafe to watch the Young Turks. So the story, Jimmy, is I'm going to The Hill. They have a live video show now. And there is a Republican consultant, and he's African American, and we're having a debate back and forth, right? So only in Washington do you find black Republicans, right? Like they don't exist anywhere else in the world, but in Washington, like half the African Americans are black, right? Not if you go to real Washington, you go to Southeast, there's no Republicans, right? But in the lobbyist community, et cetera. Anyway, then another guy walks in, he's also African American, he's a Democratic consultant, right? And we're getting along fine, we're having a little disagreement with the Republican, et cetera. I say Bernie Sanders, and both of them immediately unite. And they go, no, Not Bernie. He has no chance. You're crazy. That's the one guy who definitely won't win. Okay. I'm like, that's interesting. You guys were fighting before, but it looks like the one thing that you guys definitely agree on is you can't stand Bernie Sanders. And by the way, not the Republican. And the reason I mentioned the race, not the Republican, but the Democratic consultant immediately went, oh, he's not good with blacks. He's against minorities. He'll never win. I'm like, oh man, that didn't take long, did it? In fact, I gave a speech that you saw at the National Press Club later in the day. And I said they're going to go racial. They're going to go racial immediately in fighting against progressives, right? And I had written that speech, earlier. And the minute I hit Washington, that was the very first thing I did in the morning, in the green room. They immediately went racial. Now the reality is, Bernie Sanders was tied up to an African American woman during the Civil Rights era. He chained himself to her. Said, "If you're going to arrest her, you're going to arrest me." Okay? He's been in that fight forever. But no, they don't care about that. They're going to go dirty, and then they're going to say, "Oh, what? These progressives are so aggressive, and they started all the fights." No, you started the fights, and you started immediately. Get real, and that's going to happen immediately after today. So as soon as these elections are over, those internal fights begin.
So when Chuck Todd did his segment last Sunday, and he wanted to check in with all the 2020 hopefuls for president. And he left out Bernie Sanders. I just want to show you what Bernie Sanders was doing. So just because he didn't, he's drenched in sweat after giving his third speech of the day. Brothers and sisters, you're not living in a democracy, you're living in an oligarchy. There he is, drenched in sweat after his third speech. And he's out there getting it done without an electoral victory. He got $15 minimum wage for the Disney workers, Amazon.com workers. So Bernie Sanders is still out there making things happen. No matter how much the mainstream press ignores him, he's still making it happen. And he's the most popular politician in the country.
So what do they make of someone like Nina Turner, who is such a big supporter of Bernie Sanders and such a great advocate? I mean, she's so articulate, she's so motivating, she's so inspiring. How do they dismiss her support of him?
They don't, it's funny because they criticize the Trump people for not living in a reality-based world, and they're right about that. But the Democratic establishment also lives in an alternate reality. So the two people that I usually mention in the same sentence is Richard Ojeda and Nina Turner. Why? Because they're both really populist. So Nina's more progressive than Ojeda is, but they're very populist progressives. They're fighting progressives, right? And they both do the same thing. They went back to old school politics. Ojeda will, have a kid next to him and say, "We're not going to let him down. We're not going to let him down." Okay. Nina will do the same thing. She'll go into the crowd. She'll get a kid, and then she'll say, if she doesn't have health care, she might lose her life. But we're not going to let that happen. Not on our watch. Okay. And the reason I normally bring them up together in that context, but it's perfect in this context because I'm like, look, Ojeda is in a district Trump won by 49 points. And win or lose, he's within about 5 points of Caramello right now in that West Virginia's 3rd district. So let's say he closed a 45-point lead. Let's say even if he doesn't win, he closed 45 points. Doesn't that show you populist, progressive, uncorrupted, no corporate PAC money works? They're like, no, I don't believe in polls, right? There's a great story Ryan Grimm did at The Intercept where he said the Democrats have targeted 5 races in Virginia, and they think those they can win, and the Washington Post agrees. And Coburn is not among them. Coburn's a much more aggressive progressive in Virginia's 5th district. She has a 1-point lead on Riggleman. She's winning right now, and they said not winnable. Washington Post said not winnable. One of the 5 that they mentioned that's establishment Democrats is down by 8 points. They're like, that one is winnable. It's right in front of their eyes. So they see Nina Turner, and they're like, no, even though she leads our revolution, the group that Bernie Sanders started. No, Bernie Sanders is not supported by black people. But wait, I literally don't understand the words coming out of your mouth. We don't live in the same reality. If you're telling me +1 is worse than -8, if you're telling me 45-point closing a 45-point lead doesn't matter. But remember, that's what they did with Bernie. He closed a 60-point lead on Hillary Clinton, and they're like, no, he didn't. No, it was not a big deal. It's not a big deal. That wasn't that impressive. And Nina Turner, is she really black? Right? Like, what do you mean? I don't understand the words coming out of your mouth.
Well, speaking of that, I have a little video from when you were at the press club that I wanted to play because it just shows you the out of touchness of the media. And the real, the real reason that I think I wanted to get involved doing this kind of work, it's exemplified in this clip. So let's watch it real fast. Here we go.
Great country where you can come to Washington. Welcome to Washington, by the way, and say Washington is toxic.
Yes.
And walk out of this room unharmed.
For now, yes.
Well, let me, as president of the National Press Club, you've taken a lot of swings at the media. I've been a reporter, an editor, or worked in journalism. I've been a journalist for almost 25 years. And I got to say that all of the reporters and editors I know work so hard to get it right and work so hard. I work for Bloomberg, and objectivity, not false equivalence, which you have called out here, but objectivity is incredibly important. It is incredibly important to have, to me personally, to have a fair and unbiased standard of reporting, right? And I understand that everybody has an opinion, and you're welcome, obviously, to it. And we welcome you here.
Saying unbiased opinion. And if you've noticed, and we've talked about this here extensively, what they've done in establishment, corporate, mainstream news reporting is they've actually switched objectivity with neutrality. And so what's the difference between objectivity and neutrality? If you're objective, you can objectively say climate science is real, and that guy is full of it who says it isn't, as an objective fact. If you're neutral, everybody's opinion's equal. Nobody's wrong, and I don't know who's really right or right. So I just want to point that out. And she really seems to be making the point, Cenk, that they work hard. Like, I don't know, harder than a bricklayer? I don't think so. Harder than a bus driver, harder than a truck driver? How hard does they work? Does that mean? What do they mean they work hard? They spend a lot of time at the office. Anyway, she keeps me making that point. Let us finish this and we'll talk about it after. Here we go.
I know you called out Wolf Blitzer at one point as not having a thought, but when Wolf Blitzer was here accepting an award 2 years ago, every single person who came and spoke about him said he was the hardest working man at CNN, that he was such a hardworking reporter. So I just want to recognize here that the reporters and editors who are working for newspapers and TV, all of which are also digital now, right? They work really hard. They're not in it for the money.
Yeah.
We have to take a break. We're up at 10 seconds to go. But when we come back, there's so much in there that I want to talk about while Cenk is still here. So we'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aggressive Progressives. When we left you, we were talking about Cenk Uygur at the National Press Club. And let's finish that video and we'll come back and talk about it. Here we go.
Yeah, Andrea.
They work hard and they work hard to get it right. So.
Okay, so let me agree and disagree. So do they work hard? Of course, I don't begrudge them that. No, nowhere in my speech did I say they were lazy.
I think you did.
No, I think I said they were wrong. That's different than lazy. And so Wolf Blitzer, his problem isn't whether he works hard or doesn't work hard. His problem is he does have a perspective, and he might not even know it. His perspective is the status quo is awesome. So Hillary Clinton is acceptable, Jeb Bush is acceptable, Bernie Sanders is not acceptable, Donald Trump is not acceptable. And so it oozes out of every broadcast.
I don't want to speculate on his perspective.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. No, I can speculate. It's not speculation. I'll tell you what CNN's motives are. Profit. It's not complicated. They're a giant multi-billion-dollar corporation. Why are they in favor of the status quo? Well, they don't want to rock the boat because it's their boat. It's their boat. If you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, you do not want change. You just don't want it. So it's not that they give a memo to Wolf Blitzer, although MSNBC literally told me that my non-establishment thinking was not welcome. But that's unusual. Normally, it is in the hiring decisions. When's the last time CNN hired a radical? They say, well, of course you're not going to hire a radical. Think about that. Of course you're not going to hire a quote-unquote radical.
I mean, CNN should be in the business of hiring reporters, not politicians, right?
Well, but what is the perspective that they present, Andrea? The perspective is status quo
should be the
establishment.
truth. It should be the
It
truth.
should be the truth, but it isn't. So let me ask you this. Jake Tapper on CNN, and these are not bad guys. I know Jake a tiny bit. I know Chris Cuomo a little bit. Alison Camerota is wonderful. There's a lot of great journalists at the New York Times, Washington Post, et cetera, and they do great stories. Okay, but Jake Tapper goes on air and says Medicare for All costs $32 trillion, but he leaves out that it saves $34 trillion. And he asked Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, how are you going to pay for it? Every time, watch it. I'll tell you ahead of time, not afterwards, not Monday morning quarterback. I'll tell you ahead of time. Every time a progressive goes on air, on CNN or elsewhere, they will ask him, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Wages, higher wages, anything that helps the middle class, how are you going to pay for it? Did they ask him, how are you going to pay for it on a $2 trillion tax cut for the rich? Did they ever ask them, how are you going to pay for the Iraq war that cost us trillions of dollars? No, they bowed their heads.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. New York Times, you saw.
Like just a complete alternative reality she's living in. Are you sure? Are you sure if the mainstream news went along with the Iraq war? Are you out of your mind? Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure they fired Phil Donahue because he was telling the truth about the war. They never invited him back, by the way. So that's, to me, there's a little bit more to that. I just wanted to play it and then we'll get back. Here we go.
Judy Miller, they always apologize afterwards, but they never learn their lessons. So how about Iran? Warmongering, fear-mongering on Iran, on Syria too, but everybody constantly feed into it. I've never seen a single question of Syria. How much is that going to cost? Never.
Okay.
First of all, that was, there's something cathartic to watch you say that to their faces. There is something to that, especially to someone who, again, she seems like a very nice woman. She also doesn't seem like she has the personality of an actual reporter. A reporter is supposed to be tough as nails, not looking to make friends. She looks the exact opposite. She looks as soft as Jell-O, and all she wants to do is be friends with people. And it's the opposite of what a reporter is supposed to be. But anyway, so I thought it was just magnificent, the amount of condescension that I picked up in her talking to you, and like it's just some of this idea that they get it right, that they work hard to get it right, so therefore they do get it right. Yet we all know they don't get it right.
But they don't know that, and so let me double down on what a nice, terrific person she is. I talked to her before the speech, I talked to her after the speech, and she was pretty shaken by my speech. I mean, you're seeing the reaction we have afterwards in the Q&A. If you watch the whole speech, I laid into the media, and rightfully so. And I did it with facts, right? So, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't personal. It's not about her, right? I didn't even consider her to be part of the press. I know that she's a National Press Club, but she took it personally. I don't mean it personally. It isn't anything about that, and I'm sure she's wonderful to her neighbors, et cetera, right? But what I think she's missing is that she's in a bubble. She's in groupthink, and she doesn't know it. So, for example, what was telling is, I said they wouldn't even consider hiring a radical. And she's like, they're not supposed to hire politicians. But wait a minute, I didn't say a politician. Now, what is a member of the press supposed to do theoretically? Be a watchdog against the government. Now, what would help you be a watchdog against the government? If you were against the status quo, if you constantly questioned the status quo, if you were a radical in that sense and said, hey, you know what, I'm not just gonna accept what the government tells me, I would think that would be a great qualification for being a reporter. Instead, she views it as, oh, no, wait. Well, of course we're not gonna hire radicals. But that's exactly my point. That's why CNN hires Wolf Blitzer, because they know he ain't gonna rock the boat. He could be on air for 1 million hours straight and he would never say anything controversial. He would just tell you that basically in every word is a hidden message, every sentence is a hidden message, that things are great. Just calm down, sit back down on your couch and don't do anything.
So everything you said on that was awesome. And the fact that you didn't feel compelled to be overly nice and polite and hold back is very commendable. But there's one thing that I wish you had said. I wish you had said, they do hire politicians. What are you talking about? They hired Jay Carney. He was literally the mouthpiece of the Obama administration, and you hired him. They hired Dana Perino, literally the mouthpiece of the Bush administration. They hired her. They hired David Axelrod, who ran Obama's campaign. They hired politicians all the time.
They hired.
These are all politicians.
They hired Trump's campaign manager was paid $500,000.
Corey
Lewandowski.
No, Van Jones not really. He did work in the Obama White House. That's fair, but he's as good as we're going to get on TV, in my opinion.
No, I like Van Jones.
Yeah. But you know, Steve, honestly, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned it, I was like, oh, of course, it's wall-to-wall politicians. Karl Rove, Joe Scarborough. Thank you, Malcolm. I mean,
Joe
he was a
Scarborough.
representative. Ed Rendell. When I was on MSNBC, we'd have Ed Rendell on almost every single day. Not my show, but every show. And from time to time, I would have him on too.
George
He's a
Snuffleupagus.
former governor, former head of the DNC, former mayor. What do you mean they don't hire politicians? But do they hire any progressive politicians?
What about George
And the answer
Snuffleupagus?
is never.
George Snuffleupagus.
George Stephanopoulos, that's right, worked under Clinton.
He's on ABC. He hosts their.
He's their #1 guy on ABC.
Yeah.
Gets paid $30 million a year.
Yes. So what's this?
so-
what's this idea they don't hire politicians?
So, A, she's completely wrong about not hiring politicians, and two, I found it very telling that she conflated being a progressive or being a radical with being a politician. Those are two totally separate things.
Right.
So the fact that she made that odd connection was very jarring for me. I'm like, where's this coming from? So, I agree with you. She seemed like a really nice person. Like if I had coffee with her, I would say she's wonderful. But I think she completely misses the point of what journalists are supposed to be. And this also harkens back to Sarah Huckabee Sanders recently when she had that tirade, and she's like, 90% of the time, you guys are attacking us. It'd be nice to have some sort of like, a pat in the back for when we get things right. And that's not what the media is supposed to do. If you are a politician or you're the government, you get things right 99 times in a row, they get one thing wrong, that's what the media should jump on and say, you got that wrong and you need to be better. That's the whole point of being the media. We're watchdogs.
Okay, I'm gonna give a bit of an absurd analogy here, but it's like going in front of a judge and it's a murder case and you go, yeah, all right, fine, I committed the murder, but you're not giving me any credit for all the other things I did. I walked the dog, I was nice to that lady, and and my sister really likes me. I've been pleasant to her my whole life. Fine, I did the murder, but now you're gonna put me away. But when you're not taking into account all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the role of the judge. The role of the judge is to judge you on that, and the role of the media and the reporters is to say what the government is doing wrong and hold them accountable, not to give them a pat on the back and then hire them afterwards. But one last thing about that is part of the groupthink is, it's another great point, Steve, is that she views radical as inherently political. That's why she said politician, right? But she doesn't view the establishment as inherently political. She just views it as the normal state of affairs, right? No, but the establishment and the status quo, that is also political. It's deeply, deeply political. But it's like asking a fish, how's the water today? And he says, what water, right?
Yeah.
And so when you ask her about the politics of the establishment, she goes, what politics, right? And so that's exactly what was wrong in that, and why I gave the speech in the first place. And last thing on that, they're used to taking heat from the right. And so, and they've never seen anything like aggressive progressives, right? Wait till they get a load of you, Jimmy, right? Let alone me. And so when they take heat from the left, they're like, what? How could that possibly be? When in reality, they are terribly dismissive of the left. The left is invisible to them, and they don't even know it. They just view it as the normal state of affairs.
So it really must have jarred them then, because when in CNN in Santa Monica during the 2016 primary, I think it was Santa Monica, there was a room full of Bernie Sanders supporters chanting CNN sucks. So
it was in Hollywood, but yes.
It was in Hollywood. So they're used to getting that from the right, as you said. That's their whole thing. The media is liberal and they criticize them for being liberal, which they're not, they're corporate. But so that must have really jarred them when those, just an organic chant.
No. And look, we've forgotten it because it's been a while since the primaries in 2016, et cetera. I would lead those chants in Bernie rallies. And I did it in Northern California, I did it in Southern California. Not CNN sucks, but I would say, do you trust the mainstream media? And it would be raucous, no! Because you have betrayed them by, not because of the politics, but because you're not covering the facts as they are. You're being neutral between lies and truth. And that is what the left feels aggrieved upon. Not that you're not biased in their favor, but that you're biased in favor of lies because you equated them to the truth. I'm gonna read one last thing. Outraged leftist voter tweeted in, glad I took the day off, finally get to watch Aggressive Progressive live. Hey, there you go. Yeah. If you're a member, you get this all the time at tyt.com/join. Thank you for joining us.
I think they should go to tyt.com/Jimmy.
Has that started yet? Because we wanted to make sure we had a lead before we
that
let
didn't
you
start?
Because once that starts, Jimmy's going to pass us real quick.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoy this free clip of Aggressive Progressives on the Young Turks. This is just a preview of what you will receive with TYT membership. That means exclusive interviews, panel discussions, and more of Jimmy, and of course, me. If you like what you saw, you can access full episodes of Aggressive Progressives by becoming a member. Head to tyt.com/join now.